Hi everybody, Ali Akbarian, your resident road safety expert, back again for another Q&A. Thank you very much for tuning in. We love those questions, keep them coming in. And also thank you very much for hitting that subscribe button. And if you haven't, can you please do so? We'd love your support. We're really close to that 1,000 subscriber mark, so get on board, hit that button down there that looks a bit like this pillow, and I promise I'll get something else that'll be something different, and we'll try to go to the next one. Okay, so on to today's question. So today's question, I have a restraint, a child restraint here, and within our industry we deal with children, both disabled and non-disabled, but the system of restraints for disabled children and also for non-disabled children is relatively similar in the way that they are secured. So this video will basically cover you for all seat restraints or child car seats, whether they are a disabled restraint or a standards off-the-shelf restraint for children, able-bodied children. So let's get into it. So the first thing I want to talk about before we get into how tight it should be is talk about, generally speaking, all of these restraints have two restraint points. They have a lower restraint anchorage, which in this case is the seatbelt, and sometimes it's ISOFIX straps, and we do have videos on ISOFIX that you can go and look up as well. And they also have a secondary restraint, which is the top tether, right? So it's the top strap that comes over the top of the seat and hooks onto the back parcel shelf or on the back of the seat, which is the case here. So we have a lower anchorage and an upper anchorage. Now, the most important anchorage in this car and the most important way of securing the restraint in the car is actually the lower anchorage, which is the seatbelt or the ISOFIX. So in this case, we're just going to talk about securing the restraints with the seatbelt. So the lower anchorage is the seatbelt, and in most disability and child restraints, we use the seatbelt to secure the restraint in the vehicle, and then we put the child in the restraints of the seat. So in this case, what we have is if you want to come and scroll down around a little bit here, we have seatbelts, and generally the seatbelt follows a pathway. So in this case, we have a pathway that goes through the back of the seat, and so I'm going to run the seatbelt through that pathway and actually click it into the seat. Seatbelt buckle. In this case, this is relatively easy. I can reach my hand through the back and feed it through. Sometimes you might need to do a little bit of tricky kind of maneuvering with your hands to get it through, but that's basically what we want to do. We want to make sure all of our seatbelts are free of all of the twists, and then what we want to do is we want to remove all of the slack and make it nice and firm. So how firm does this have to be? Well, before I actually show you how to make it firm, I'll give you the answer to how firm it's supposed to be. It is supposed to feel like it is part of the car, right? So let's go back a step. If I have to have this protection, this seat to protect me from an accident, right? So protection from an accident. In an accident, what happens is the entire process of the accident from start to finish completes itself within half a second or less, right? So it's like that, right? So I have an accident, and airbags, ABS, crash systems, all of these things in these modern cars go off to keep me safe and minimize my injury, and they all go off and happen all within a second like that. It's all bang, 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 done. Before we even actually realize we've had an accident, everything's done its job, right? Now, this seat needs to be an integral part of the car so it moves at the same rate in the accident as the car. If it doesn't, then it will be kind of late to the party. It will start securing a little bit later. It could only be 1/10 of a second later, but still the accident might have already started and already finished even, and then this thing starts, its process. So you really don't want to have a delayed effect. You want it to be moving all at the same pace. So how do I identify that it's going to be moving at the same pace? Just by looking at it. Very, very easy. What we want to do is we want to secure the restraint firm enough so when we shake the restraint, it actually shakes the whole car. And that means that we have transfer of forces between each other, and we're running on the same force line, if that makes sense. If there's a separate amount of movement to it, so like say for example this situation here, you see I shake this moves, but that seat doesn't really move, well then they're moving at different force lines, they're moving separately, right? So if this has an accident, this is going to move separately to this, right? So you've got a problem. What you want to do is you want to make it nice and secure, and what we do with that is we pull the seatbelt up back into the retractor, and to get rid of all the slack, a little hit I show people is I basically get the baby seat and I pull this belt up towards itself, and then I jiggle the baby seat like that, and I jiggle it a little bit like that, and then we feed it up, and now you see It's very firm, there's no movement, and now we're starting to see the whole seat frame, right? So that tells me that the seat and the car seat and everything is all in one now, right? Now, does it have to be tighter? No, it doesn't. As long as it's moving like this and it's moving to the same pace of the seat and the car, it's okay. Any tighter doesn't actually make it any safer, right? So out there in the industry, there is this perception sometimes that if I get it super rock solid and I put 200 kilos of weight and we all sit on it and we rock it in and blah blah blah, then it's going to be much safer. Actually, it's not. It potentially could actually put some damage onto the plastic of the restraint, which we have had with people doing way too much pressure onto that. So you've got to be careful. It has to be firm, it has to be no slack, so there shouldn't be any kind of slack or movement in the restraint system here. But what you might find is towards the front of the restraint, it actually might pivot a little bit, pivot like that, because nothing is holding it in here, but it's still firm over here, right? So that's basically how we secure the top tether. Now, sorry, the primary restraint, the seatbelt, and now we're going to go to the top tether. So the top tether is the top strap, which we basically simply just pull hand tight. So what we do is we grab that strap like this. It's already hooked on the back, and all I do is I pull it towards the back of the car, right? And if you actually can't, I'll turn this around. Sorry about the noise, come around and have a look here. So if you have a look here, this is not very tight at all. So this just simply removes all of the slack, and it sits there. I can just fit my finger under there, and that's okay. If I make this any tighter, all I'm going to do is I'm going to make the bottom part looser, because I'm going to pull it up away from the tension that I pushed it down. So this is just a secondary backup. It's to stop the head from moving forward. It doesn't do any extra security, and if I do over tighten it, I actually have a loose fitting seat, and so I don't want to over tighten this top strap. What I want to do is I want to make sure this is firm, and if I do want to really over tighten something, I can do that. But like I said, I don't want to distort any plastics, but I can really tighten that one. But this one, just take away the slack and away you go. And then you have a very securely fitted seat. As long as it's vibrating with the whole frame, you're all good, right? So that's how firm we want the restraint. Disability restraint or not, it doesn't matter. We just need to make sure it forms an integral part of the car so it moves at the same pace of the car. All right, so thanks very much for tuning into that question. Hopefully that helps with how firm should my child restraint be or my disability restraint be to ensure safety. And as we always say, hit that subscribe button down there and keep those questions coming in, and we'll see you next time.